Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Today's video features true scary paranormal encounters. These stories were sent in to me by viewers just like you. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe now for future content. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Story number 1. Myself and a buddy on my squad responded to an alarm. The incident location was an old office-type building that had been converted into a doctor's office. There was a pharmacy attached to it as well. Our dispatch received a motion signal from an upstairs office. The key holder arrives on the scene and we go in to secure the building. The stairs were locked behind a door that, of course, the key holder didn't have keys to, so we took the elevator to the second floor. Not the most tactically sound option, I know. Elevator opens to a pitch black hallway, except for one overhead light at the end of the hall. We start checking doors, and so far all are secured. We get to the last office, and sure enough the door is unlocked. We make entry and observe it to be an unused office. The door opened to a sizable waiting room and reception area. There were about 10 or 12 exam rooms, all cleared with no hiccups. We exit the office and immediately something feels off. That is when I realize the overhead light at our end of the hallway that had been on was now off, replaced by another light over by the elevators. I look at my squad mate and he is completely white. I ask him what is wrong, and he says, "Weren't all those doors we just checked closed and locked?" I tell him yeah, so Buddy says, "Well, now they're all standing open." Sure enough, all the offices down the hallway we had just checked were now standing open. So we start clearing offices and securing offices. We finish the last office, and on our way out, just before we turn the corner to get into the waiting area, the main door just slams shut. Then, our radios start going nuts with some kind of static feedback. Now, I just want to get the hell out of there. We get back on the elevator and head down to the first floor to make contact with the key holder once more. However, key holder is nowhere to be found. I contact dispatch and request a callback number for the key holder so I can advise him on what we found. Dispatch states that the key holder was still en route to us and was advising an ETA of 5 minutes. I advised dispatch that we had already been out with the key holder. Dispatch requests I give them a call. I call dispatch and she tells me that there is no way we were out with the key holder. She states that the alarm company had only just made contact with one. Eventually, the real key holder arrives on scene, and I ask her about the man that had let us in the building. She asked me to describe him, so I did. She states that that sounds like one of the doctors that used to lease the office on the second floor at the end of the hall. She then states that he had committed suicide at his summer home several days ago. I still won't go back there. Story number 2. A few years back, prior to sworn LEO, I worked as a security guard at a hospital. Sounds cool, and it was, except for the fact that it was 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. I worked alone, and the hospital I guarded was abandoned. A year prior, the hospital built a brand new facility to replace their 5-story tall 1900s building. When the employees and patients left, they left everything in place. It looked like the people just disappeared in a hurry. Partially full coffee mugs, uniforms hanging on coat racks, wheelchairs in the hall, everything as it was, with a good coating of dust. I was always a third shift kind of person. I don't get night jitters or scare easily, but this place could do it to the best of them. Every night I would walk or ride a wheelchair through the halls that were supposed to be empty or unused. Every night I would end up having to close doors and relock them. I would walk one floor, move up to the next, and continue on. I got a little shaky when an hour after already walking a hallway, I would have to turn off the same hall lights and close the same doors again. Another instance that would occur, I would be walking a hall and then I would hear footsteps on the floor above me, doors opening and closing, elevators moving from floor to floor, phones ringing, nurse call lights going on, etc. There were only 3 times I got that I hate this feeling. First time I was checking offices on the 4th floor. There was a light on in a locked hallway. This hallway hadn't been renovated since the place was built, short of electricity, so everything was from the 1920s. I unlocked the door, flipped the lights, walk out, relock the door and turn to leave. Behind me I hear the flip of a light switch. Through the frosted glass I see the lights went back on. I left the hallway alone that night. Second time was riding an elevator between floors. I was taking the elevator to the top floor, when at about number 4 or number 5, I hear laughing and muffled talking. It kept getting louder as it got higher. Elevator makes it to number 5. Doors swing open in absolute silence. Of course, every light was on the floor, even in the patients' rooms. I checked high and low. Not a single living and breathing person in that place except for me. Third, and worst of all, was just an average night. I'm on the lower level locking a door in a corridor. The door had a glass middle, but on its backside it was covered by white tape. The room it led to was dark and the hallway a few feet behind me was partially lit, so the glass acted like a perfect mirror. Everything normal. Key in, lock clicks, turning the key. When behind me I see the full outline of a person walk past me in the hallway. Clear as day, a full shadow of a person walked past. I froze, only for about a second, and then ran into the hall after the supposed person. No one. Just silence. Awesome gig, but after a year it felt like I should have been an exorcist with all this stuff happening. The other guards that worked on the days opposite to mine had the same stuff happen, except they always saw nuns walking into rooms just outside of an old rectory chapel on the 3rd floor. Better nuns than something else, I guess. Story number 3. I work for a tribal police department as well, and believe me, the spirits here can get to you. There is a section of Florida road between Dade and Collier counties known as the Western Camps. Dade-Collier Airport is located here. Anyway, while on midnight shift I was patrolling this area and called an area check. My radio worked absolutely fine. Just then, that commercial for the movie Fourth Kind played on my FM radio. I immediately became spooked. A couple of miles down the road, I called another check and got nothing but loud static. Since I was near the end of my check, I decided to turn around, and when I did, I froze. Tons and tons of eyes staring at me from in the water, in the trees, and on the road. I couldn't tell whether they were alligators or whatnot, but I flew back east to familiar territory. Another officer who works with us said he was doing the same check and heard someone knock on the back window of his patrol car while he was stopped. He stepped out of the vehicle with his weapon drawn, but saw absolutely nobody. Story number 4. I was sitting in the flat of a hill, monitoring traffic. It was about 2 to 3 a.m. Where I was sitting, it's a well-known spot where an unsolved murder victim was found about 26 years ago. No other officers would sit here, even though citizens are constantly doing 15 to 20 over the speed limit in this area. As I was sitting there, I saw a shadow cross the back of my unit, coming from the passenger side. Almost immediately afterwards, the shadow came up the driver's side of my unit, then across the front. Mind you, it's completely dark in this area, and the only lighting around me is from the moon. Thinking the worst, I turn on all my lights to light up the area to see if I can see who or what is around me. I saw nothing. I figured it was time to leave that area. Once I got to a lighted area, I stopped and realized that my camera was recording from where I hit my emergency lights. I reviewed the footage, and you can see where a figure starts from the driver's front of my unit. Then for half a second, the entire camera goes black, as if someone put their finger over the lens. Then it goes back to normal. Needless to say, I haven't gone back to that spot. Story number 5. It's been a while, but I only have one. I get a call for an alarm at a new water tower they were building. The alarm company also has cameras on the site, so when the alarm activated, so did the cameras. The alarm company advised that there were 2 teenagers observed going under a sign. I was already in the area, so I was on scene quickly. The alarm company stayed online and said they have not passed the camera again. A few more units get there and we are checking the site for this sign. Well, we find it, but it's not a sign. It's a piece of construction equipment. And when you go under the sign, it leads to only one place, the entrance to the water tower. So, we go inside and immediately hear people talking. We shine our lights toward the next landing and it stops. So, we're giving commands and all that, but no response. We are considering climbing up there, but the ladder is being held on by a carabiner. We can't figure out their harness system. We call one of the workers out, so it takes him a bit to get there. We're sitting there BSing inside the tower because it's cold and decide to turn our lights off. After a minute, the talking resumes, along with what sounds like someone walking or shuffling around. So, we shine a light up and it stops. We do this 3 or 4 times, and it's the same thing. Guy finally gets there and goes up the ladder, checks that level, the next level, then the actual bowl. No one was up there. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future content. Email your true scary stories to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I will leave a link to my email in the description box below as well. Don't be shy. Send me your stories. Any kind of stories you can think of. Anything terrifying or scary that's happened to you. Don't be bashful. Send it to Sinful. And until we meet again, stay sinful.